Hey, everybody, and welcome to a healthy wild ride with Steve-O. We've got the healthiest guy on earth, and I do believe that that is measurably a fact. That Bryan Johnson, by spending over $2 million on anti-aging protocols, has actually made himself the actual healthiest guy on earth. If you haven't seen this documentary on Netflix called Don't Die, I'll tell you, it's wild, it's weird, and it's awesome. And how fascinating that we've got this guy trying so hard to not die, sitting next to me, a guy who's been basically trying to die forever. And, you know, I just wonder what the Vegas odds would be on who's going to live longer, me or Bryan Johnson. Tough to say, but he's got all kinds of fascinating answers to questions that I was dying to ask him. And I think you're going to really, really enjoy this. We enjoyed the hell out of it. It was like, what, almost 2 hours? Crazy how much I enjoyed him. So let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, people of the universe, I bring to you the man who's trying to live forever. Yeah, dude, Bryan Johnson.
Man, this is cool to be here. It's really cool to be hanging out with you.
Well, thank you so much, man. Sorry, we've got a special co-host today, the beautiful Coral. You guys have been introduced. We watched your documentary together, and I thought it would be important to have the perspective of somebody who's like really young, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much I want to...
Well, that's me.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, so we got that covered.
I love that. Yeah, how old are you now?
Biologically or chronologically?
Chronologically.
47.
Still 47.
Yeah.
So wow, that's a very current documentary. And biologically, how old are you?
Depends on the body part. If it's my penis, it's age 18.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. If my diaphragm, age 18. My sleep scores, early 20s. My heart is 37. My left ear's 64. My brain is 41.
Wow.
Yeah, so just every part of my body has a different age. Like you think about this, if you look at a 2-year-old and an 80-year-old, you can see they're clearly different ages. And then if you get more narrow and you get in, you can basically tell the organ of the age of an organ by how it looks and how it functions.
Okay, that's an. I mean, I had heard that. I had heard that different organs age differently. I think that the first thing, when I think of what's it called, anti-aging.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think of anti-aging, I think of my dad. He's 82 years old.
Yeah.
He is terrified of dementia, and I mean, like, really terrified. He like, and he has early stages of it.
Yeah.
So, I just think, man, like, whatever could be done to reverse
Exactly
that. Like, I'm all in for that. And I was looking at the plasma transfusion. Is it plasma transfusions?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So by you're effectively flushing the blood of a younger person through your body.
That's right.
And that's just rejuvenating you. And because you do it with your own son, I would imagine that the DNA, the closely linked genetics, like, makes that more effective than if you had some random 18-year-old.
Yeah, it's blood typed. So it's just he's A positive, I'm A positive on the blood type. As long as you're matching on blood type, you can do the transfusion. But like to your dad, my father's in his early 70s. So he called me one day and he was in a panic. He said, Bryan, I just wrote this thing for work. I walked away, I got something to eat. I came back and it was a jumbled mess. And so he makes a living and using his mind. Like it's a really intense mental task to do his job. And so he said, I'm terrified. Like I'm absolutely just like panicking because like your dad, I mean, when your mind begins slipping, like what could be more terrifying? You're losing your mind and you can't see it. That's pretty scary.
It's awful.
So that led to so I said that in that conversation, I said, okay, Dad, we're doing this research right now on these plasma transfusions. If you want to give this a go, like I'm down. Like I'm happy to give you a liter of my plasma. It's experimental. We don't know if it's going to work, but like I'll do anything to help you out.
Yeah, and your dad's also A positive?
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, so your son, and what's your son's name?
Talmadge.
Talmadge. He gives you his plasma, and then you give your dad your plasma.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating, and people just love to hate on it, huh? Vampire,
They
like,
do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
man. So I want now. What else is your dad doing to combat dementia?
He has totally turned his life around. Like it's night and day. People at work can't even believe what's happened to him. So that phone call kicked off a bunch of stuff. So I was doing my thing where I was trying to become, basically the world record holder in anti-aging. I was trying to create a new sport out of it and do something no one had ever done.
And you've accomplished that, yeah?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, basically we're number one in the world on this. Yeah.
It is demonstrably, measurably.
Yes.
A success, okay.
Yeah, we have third-party receipts for everything. Everything has a lab result. We publish the lab results.
Right.
And so, yeah, I basically said, okay, Dad, let's do this. And so I put him on my entire protocol. I said, this is what you eat. This is what you don't eat. You need to exercise every day. You need to go to bed at this time. I mean, not this time, like in this way. And he has just turned his life around. He's just crisp and spry, and he has no aches and pains in his body, which is insane. He's been obese for a lot of his life. But I'm really proud of him. Like when you're early 70s, it's pretty hard to change your habits. But he does. Like he's done it, and he's a different person.
So you said you have him on your own whole protocol. Mm-hmm. Is sauna and cold plunge, like I've heard that's really good for dementia?
Yeah, I haven't seen the evidence specifically for it. Like the thing that makes us unique is we use scientific evidence for everything. So take a given thing like cold plunge.
Yeah.
We'll say, look at all the scientific evidence ever published on whole cold plunge. What does it say? Like, and what can we form with a strong confidence? And so otherwise, before I got into this game, you could hear someone say, like, cold plunge, I feel so great, and it really helps me feel good. But there was no one measuring, like, what actually is happening in this given phenomena. So we take an approach where we just look at the evidence and say, what does the evidence say? And then we measure it in ourselves. And so he doesn't do cold plunge. I don't think he does sauna either. Not to say that it couldn't be beneficial. Just the evidence around sauna this is kind of technical, is called observational, which just means that you look at a bunch of people who do sauna and you form conclusions basically about observing the data, versus interventional, where you control a study, where you say, these people have cognitive decline. We're now going to put them in the sauna, and we're going to say, what does the sauna do for their cognitive decline based upon like whatever markers they're looking at? And does it work or does it not work? And you can then create a rigorous study on how to do that. So I guess I just say that really long-winded answer to say that usually when we try to answer a question, we try to be incredibly precise and say, the science says blank.
Right.
And so that's what we know. And then here's what we don't know. Now you can make a decision. So if my dad wants to do cold plunge and sauna, fine. But at least we know baseline, what to start, and then what to measure. Is it working for him or not?
Man, I thought that there was pretty compelling science for sauna and cold plunge. All these people in Finland.
Yeah, exactly. So that's observational data.
Right.
So it's not to say that it's not correct evidence or good evidence. It's just it's a weaker form of evidence than interventional data.
Right. Okay. What about stem cell? Is that part of the program? Have you done that?
Yeah, I did that. And so first is anybody who's thinking about stem cells, be really careful, because there's a lot of stem cells hold this bridge to like promise of it fixes anything, but it can also be very dangerous.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so you want to be very careful. A lot of people will go down to Mexico or the Bahamas.
I went to Colombia.
Oh, no. Okay. Tell me what happened.
I went to Colombia with a guy who's just got an insane amount of world records for skateboarding.
Yeah.
His name's Danny Way. He jumped over the Great Wall of China like on a skateboard. And famously, his body has just been a disaster.
Yeah.
More surgeries, no cartilage in his knees. And
Yeah.
he went there to set a world record for the most stem cells. And I went there because I have degenerative disc disease in my neck. And, it hasn't reached a point where I have pain or, limited range or anything like that. I went there largely preemptively. So it's difficult for me to really point to, how much better I feel because I went there knowing that it's an issue and trying to stave off.
Yeah.
And so I'm just a bad case study for the efficacy of it.
Do you know what kind of stem cells they used?
They used stem cells from umbilical cords.
Okay. And you did it injected in the spine? Was it in the actual?
They did local where they punch it into specific areas in my neck, and they flushed it through our whole what you call it circular.
Yeah, just an IV drip.
Yeah.
Just okay, cool. And then did you measure anything? Did you get an MRI or anything of your spine or of your neck prior to?
I did. And I don't know that there's been a follow-up. This happened in 2021. So if there's been improvement, it would be the time to look.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I was going to actually talk to you. I mean, after your very playful life and doing stunts, I would imagine that you've got like a lot of stuff going on.
I think that consensus is, chiropractors, doctors generally are shocked that I'm not in worse shape.
I arrived today expecting.
Yeah.
Okay.
A guy with a cane.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. You move around really well, and so
Right. Yeah. And I really have become quite proactive about my health.
Oh, cool. What are you doing?
A lot of cycling, bicycle, a lot of hiking.
Yeah.
Those are my two main things. Beyond that, I cut out flour and sugar.
Good. That's great.
We got to talk about this.
Yeah.
I was doing so well.
Yeah.
I was doing so well with my diet. Like in anticipation of my 50th birthday, I really decided I'm going to get in the best shape I've ever been in my life. I think I accomplished that. No snacking, just 3 meals a day. And no flour, no sugar.
Yeah.
And then while I've adhered to the no flour, no sugar, I found these little loopholes.
Okay. Yeah. As one does.
Are
Yeah.
you familiar with Quest bars?
Yes, I am.
And Bear Bells?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love them. I love them.
Yeah.
And shout out to Bear Bells. They heard me raving about how when I'm like on the beam, when I'm really doing well, that's my treat.
Yeah.
As opposed to when I'm off the rails and it's all Reese's and the rest. And they caught wind of that and sent me just cases of Bear Bells. And if they want to do that again,
on the path to addiction. Yeah.
And so recently I got on a protocol of just not more than one of these sort of healthy candy bars per day.
Yeah.
And I recently relapsed. Speaking of which, today's my sobriety birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
I'm celebrating 17 years.
Damn, that's impressive.
No drugs and booze.
Good for you.
Well, thank you. That's a big thing.
That's a tough thing to kick.
I mean, right. It's a lot tougher to continue the way that I was.
How do you celebrate? How do you congratulate somebody on a 17 years? Is it happy birthday or is it what is it? What's the language?
I think in I got sober in California. We call it a happy birthday.
You do call it happy birthday. Okay,
yeah. It's definitely a birthday where I come from. We even give cakes at
sugar-free and flour-free cakes.
Well, right. They actually encourage sugar for people who are newly sober. But in any case, back to the sugar-free candy bars. I've been eating like 3 of them a day now. It's awful. But how awful is it? That's my question.
Yeah. Okay.
The stuff the sugar. What's worse, the sugar or the stuff that?
Yeah. Okay. So to catch up on a few topics that we went through, one on the stem cells. So I would say 3 things to be mindful of stem cells for those of you who are listening. One is what I would do is you want to make sure the stem cells are produced according to like clinical grade stuff. So they call it GMP manufacturing. So it's just like a validation process to say these cells are legit. It's not like you're buying them off the corner.
Right.
So a GMP grade manufactured stem cell line. 2 is having stem cells measured before the injection. So just when you're on the table, when you're before you're going to be injected, you want to see the stem cells are alive, not dead. You want to make sure there's not junk in there that you don't want in there. So that quantification before injection is really important. And then 3 is measurement. So
the count of how
exactly.
many cells are.
Well, yeah. Also, but you want to, like, if you're going after your neck because you've got a problem, you want to get a baseline with an MRI and say, here's the situation before, and then after 6 months or 12 months, do a second MRI to say, did it work? Because then if it works, you can be like, great. Like now I've got a GMP grade cell line. I can inspect the cells before they're injected, and then I can measure whether it works or not. And then you have confidence, like, you know what? This worked really well in my neck. Maybe I want to use it for my elbow or my knees or my wrists. So it's that process of measurement and follow-up, which is like the sauna as well, the finish. Like it is, like you look at the observational data, it's great. So you can do another level of study. Like I'm going to do this study myself in sauna. I'm going to measure like 50 biomarkers and say, here's my baseline. Here's what I'm going to do the sauna protocol and see what happens. So measurement is like a superpower in health because then you don't have to mess around doing stuff that don't work.
Right.
So that's, yeah. And the same as, so then with the diet, so we put out a diet recently, my team and I, called the Don't Die diet. And it's a plate and it has all the foods that are good to eat. And so the approach we had is we said, every calorie that enters my body has to fight for its life. Like if you just put it on a power ranking of like the most powerful and best foods in the entire world and go from number 1 to 0 all the way down, what do you get? And so then, and then you go by that count. And then if your calorie intake is, let's say 2,500 a day, you fill up the 2,500 calories with the very best foods, and then the foods below it don't get any play. And so it's very easy. Like sugar doesn't qualify. Flour doesn't qualify. Bars wouldn't qualify. They're like, but this is like different levels of intensity. I mean, I'm trying to be number 1 in the world on this. And so, but we just basically said, according to the scientific evidence, what things have the very best power. And what you're trying to do is your body. So let's just say life expectancy for California is 79 years. And so you can take each day and divide that and say, how much do you die per day, right? It's an easy math calculation. And then you say, what can you do in your life to either slow down that speed of aging, to extend your life, or to speed it up? So you could smoke and drink and not sleep well. That's going to speed up your aging. Or you can have like this really clean diet. That's going to slow down your speed of aging, sleeping well, exercising. So what we've tried to do is do the most quantified endeavor in human history of measuring like to the molecular level what things slow down the speed of aging and what things increase aging. And then we just get extremely granular on everything we do.
Okay. Now we're going to be getting into this a little bit later, but if we're going to slow down our aging, for the love of God, let's slow down the aging of our animals, like Moon Pie here and my cats. And speaking of my cats, they deserve good food, like real food, like Smalls. That's the name of this brand of food I feed my cats. Refrigerated, real, nutrient-dense, protein-packed, actual food. And I do believe that since my cats started eating Smalls, that they have a less stinky litter box, less hairballs, that their fur is just beautiful and shiny and silky, and they're happier. And you know what? If you've got your cats and you want them to be happier and healthier, then why not try Smalls, especially since you can get 50% off your first order and free shipping. To get this, you go to smalls.com and use the promo code STEVO for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. Do it for your cats, and let's get back to it. I want to get a little further into diet stuff, but that feels like a really good point to express all this criticism that you get. Like people, I think a big, big portion of the criticism that you receive is that you're so into the minutia and all the all of this crazy, like the word was tedious, Rogan used, like, like you're so invested in trying to live longer that you're somehow not actually living your life, and I just so disagree with that. I was speaking with Coral about this, and so she can weigh in on how she feels, but I said, like, number one, I view it and as that you've gamified this. You've turned this into the highest level of competition.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're a competitive guy, and that you're thriving in this like super like ultra competitive thing. You're a world record. There's something that like just the pursuit of that high of a goal is to me, and then to be successful at it, like that's the definition of a life well lived in my view. So I absolutely don't agree with anybody saying that you're somehow not living your life. And then the next stage of it, the way that I view it, I said to Coral earlier, I said, there's 7 billion people. That's not counting the people who lived before us.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there. And so at the end of the day, what do you want to have been?
Yeah.
Do you want to have been one of 7 billion people who were alive at that time?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be someone that's exceptional? Do you want to strive to be absolutely exceptional? And so I just think that taking that view, it really eliminates the basis for so much of the criticism that you receive. That I just want to, on your behalf, just tell everybody, shut up. Shut up and recognize that this is incredible.
Thanks. That's amazing. You know what? No one says that. Like, I thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm cool with the criticism. It's almost like when I started doing this, people were so confused, right? No one had ever done this before in the world. And so humans, they didn't know what category to put me in. Like, am I a bodybuilder? Am I a health person? Am I a doctor? Like what category can I say? And so because there wasn't a clean category, they'd be like Patrick Bateman, Dorian Gray, Prometheus, biohacker, fuckface. They're just blurting shit out. Like they just didn't know, like, what is this? And so I'd say, actually, I'm a rejuvenation athlete. Like LeBron James eats well, sleeps well. He plays in the court. He does some records. Like, we're like, good job, LeBron.
Yeah.
But then you see someone trying to do a new sport, like trying to do anti-aging to a world record. It's like, fuckhead. So it's like I've been trying to introduce people like, this is a new category. I know you're not familiar with it. It's okay. Like, you're just getting familiarized with it, so it's all good. It's just it's a new thing that the world has not seen before. Yeah,
and I suppose that the show Silicon Valley kind of teed you up to.
We've leaned into that really hard. They did a fantastic job.
The show the Silicon Valley.
They did the parody so good, and so we've leaned into that so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. Okay, now Coral, let's hear and where's your mic?
Right here.
Okay, well then let's use it.
How far do I need to keep it?
You go right into it. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, I had a few thoughts when I was watching the documentary. At first, I was like, this guy can't be happy. Like, mental health.
Yeah.
It can't be there. And then the further I've watched, I saw that you had mentioned how you were not in a good place before, and doing what you're doing changed your life. And right then, that's all I needed to hear. And that's like, do your thing. You're not hurting anybody. You're not, as long as you're happy, do your thing.
Yeah, cool.
And then like what he said, how there's 7 billion people, after he said that, it kind of changed my mind even more of, you are starting something that nobody else has done, so you can be a record breaker.
Yeah.
That could be a cool thing.
Yeah.
Why not? Go for it.
Yeah, you're not NPC.
Yeah, you're not NPC at all, which is cool. And it's working.
What was the other question?
Okay. So, big question. Let's say you find out today you're going to die in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, what would you do? Would you do anything that's kind of out of your norm?
She says, would you bend the rules?
Yeah.
Would you kind of act out, get a little wild maybe? What would you do?
I would try to slow down time so that the 2 weeks never arrive. So,
That's smart.
Yeah, like
he would double down.
Yeah. How do you make basically 2 weeks like 50 years? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. How do I buy more time? Yeah.
That's the best answer.
Yeah, like you would you do anything Do you have anything that you've been wanting to do that you know you shouldn't or can't because of your blueprint?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any vices that remain?
Honestly, I really, I would say that I probably had an eating disorder, like years ago, where when I was really stressed and I was depressed and like in a bad relationship and like, all those things, that at night to soothe myself, I would eat. And so I was like 50 pounds or so heavier than I am right now.
Oh my God. I
Yeah,
saw
the
in the
documentary
documentary.
had said
Yeah.
It's a good looking at a different guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it probably was like an eating disorder. Like I didn't want to overeat. That made me feel really bad when I did it, but I couldn't stop myself. Probably
Oh my God, do I relate to that?
probably classifies as like an eating disorder to some extent. And so like, I don't know, like I look back at that time in my life and man, it was so awful. I mean, I felt so terrible. I wanted to die.
See, hearing that, it's like, just do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
If this is something that nobody else will do, then still do it.
Yeah. And now I last night I slept really well. I exercised this morning. I had a great breakfast. I feel amazing. I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun and great. Like I just love life. I love being alive. And so yeah, I do take a lot of shit, but like, I know what it feels like to be in a shitty place. And I think a lot of people are saying that because they feel shitty. Like
I think you're right on point with that, man. I wrote that down as a question to ask you. For all the haters that just want to like hurt your feelings and that behavior of really like trying to negatively impact somebody with your words.
Yeah.
Comes from a place of unhealth.
That's right.
Right? Like
That's right.
like that kind of malicious negativity is it's got to be quantifiably.
Yeah.
I guess it's observational.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love it, Steve. You pick it up so fast. You nailed it. Yeah.
Like there's probably not a metric for what'd you call it? Intervention.
Yeah, interventional data.
Interventional data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love it. You nailed it. So like the cool question would be, can you measure the biomarker that is responsible for meanness? Right? It's like people who are mean, like want to lash out, they want to tear people down, like they want a zinger.
Right.
Like what is the biomarker that's driving them to do that? And if they changed it, how would that temper that disposition? That's cool. That's a great frame.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's tough, man. Like, it seems from your documentary that you like don't shy away from looking at comments and feedback, and
I love it.
you love it.
I do. I don't know why. Absolutely love it. I love the hate. I egg my haters on. Like your NPCs, like say something interesting. Like so, the thing about I've really taunted haters is I've said, when you hear about me, here are like the 5 things you're going to say. I know this because everyone says these things, right? So when you do this, don't be an NPC. Don't say these standard things. Like be original. Like if you're gonna zing me, like nail me, right? Give me something good. So it's also like if you're gonna be a hater, be a good one, right? Like
Okay.
get your shit together.
I like that.
I've taken a different approach on it, or I suppose perspective. I've evaluated criticism, and anytime that I think there's merit to it, that I agree with it, like I really try to address that.
Yeah, exactly.
And and I think that by acknowledging it, it creates some kind of a vicious cycle, or it perpetuates it. And so like I reached a point where I said, you know what, like I've taken it into consideration.
Yeah.
I've made like genuine efforts to improve myself everywhere that that I feel that I can and that I should. And beyond that, like I'm tapping out on looking at all the comments.
Yeah. It's true. You have to draw the line. I mean, so like there are sometimes people offer legitimate, like one thing we're doing is we share everything publicly.
Right.
So all the good, the bad, the ugly. And we get some really good insights. Like people will say like, hey, think about this. We're like, fantastic. We missed it. So there's really some good insights. And then there's just that category of thing where it's just pure hate. It's not meant to be
Right.
constructive. It's just like, I want to hurt you, right?
Sure.
In like the most raw way possible. But I agree. But yeah, I don't know why I have such like a positive emotional relationship. My son and I, we just laugh. Like the shit people say, like when they make fun of me, it's so funny. You know, how I look, like how I am. It's funny. It's great.
All right.
That's huge. It really is all about perspective.
Yeah.
And how you can look at things. It's up to us.
Yeah,
at the end of the
I
day.
wonder.
Yeah.
Like, I need to evolve my relationship with negativity.
What? Oh, really?
Because it's kind of grinded me. It's grinded me down.
Is that right?
Grinding my
You know,
gears.
like to a point, yeah, where I'm like
Tell me more about that.
you know, like I don't know, and here I go acknowledging hate, which I think is a bad move, but I don't care because I'm just speaking
Yeah.
from the heart. I didn't used to have like a lot of it. It was really like you know, sporadic, like at best, and at a certain point, over the last, I would say, couple years, it became much more prevalent. You know, like that, because I'm a sensitive guy. You know, I'm a sensitive guy, and the prevalence of negative comments really took a toll on me. And again, I you know, I saw some of it as valid, and a little bit of it, I saw people criticizing you for you know, promoting merch and you know, monetizing what you do. That was me. You know, as much as I built an audience, I really sought to monetize it.
Yeah.
You know, I sold a lot of merch. I actually did very well selling a lot of merch, and when I saw the tide of the comments turn to, oh, you know, Steve-O's always just, you know, always shilling, always
Yeah.
trying to sell, like he's, you know, all he just wants money. He's, you know, he stopped doing drugs. He's addicted to money, like that. On some level, I agreed with that, you know, and I felt like, hey, you know what, my job here is to entertain. On one level, I agreed with it. On the other hand, I feel very strongly that at the end of this career, you know, like, do I want to have worked so hard? Do I want to have, like, you know, sacrificed so much and then have nothing to show for it?
Yeah.
Like, no, like I want to be smart, and I want to set myself up to be comfortable later in life. I want to be financially stable. And so I have to find a balance between being a businessman and being an entertainer. I just do think that I went a little overboard and kind of abused my position as an entertainer, abused the attention of the audience. And as a result, I just stopped selling merch, man. My merchandising fell
Do you
off a
think
cliff.
that criticism was fair? But do you?
I mean, I don't know. Do I think it was fair?
Like, what's the harm in you making merch? about
Right.
it?
If people don't want to buy something, don't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's like? So do you think?
I just think that I really care about being entertaining.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, that when I put something together, I really want it to be impactful. I want it to be and when there's solicitation and integrated into it, I think that does kind of undermine the goal.
I wonder, however, if that actually is not the correct signal. Those who are complaining, it's just like the kind of people who are always going to try to like.
It's true because you know what, nothing changed except for I just killed my merchandising.
Exactly.
operation.
Yeah.
I really let the haters win.
Bring it back.
Yeah, you know what? I just built a warehouse on my property in Tennessee for the express purpose of reviving my entrepreneurial spirit.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, so I did this thing myself. It was a scientific pursuit. It was like, can I be the first kind of new human around this don't die philosophy? And then it went viral, and like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people were like, I love this. I want to do it too. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And so then I was like, I don't really want to make this into a product. Like the food business sucks. It's so much pain. It's awful. It's low margins. It's the worst business. I could do something to make like 100 times more money. I don't want to do it. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. So then I do it. So I'm trying to basically bring everybody the same quality I had. For example, like I was eating foods and we were testing everything I was eating. We discovered that the world is very toxic. Like most.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah, right. But worse than you realize. Like when you see the data, it's really.
I've got
really
some
bad.
questions about that too.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah. So like I started doing this for myself, and I was like, okay, this is a really bad situation. So we started sourcing foods, testing them, and I was eating everything. So we would source like everything, every calorie. The food I had was ultra pure. The water I had, the air I had, like everything we were doing, I was ingesting in my body on a daily basis. We built all these systems. So then I basically did this for everyone else. Like here is the same thing for you at a low cost. So I did that, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing the world a solid. Like I'm helping you out to have the same access to the same stuff I'm doing. And then inevitably, right, it's like, oh, you're a grifter,
Right.
You're shilling shit, I don't trust you anymore. And it's like, what? Like, you're gonna call me if I don't do this, you're gonna call me an asshole.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. And it's just like, no way. I'm like, on the one side, I'm like this rich biohacker billionaire that wants to live forever all by myself, and I'm an asshole for doing that. Then I try to make it available to other people, and they're like, you're just a fucker now because now you're trying to shill and sell this shit. It's like, what do you want?
I mean, for a guy who bought Venmo, right? You acquired Venmo,
Yeah,
is that
I did.
right?
Exactly.
I gotta believe that you're pretty financially set up that affiliate Amazon links are not gonna really move the needle too much.
Honestly, like there are some days I'm just like, fuck it. Like I'm out. Like I don't, like, it is not worth my hassle to do this business. I don't need to do it. But then I hear from those who are like, who depend upon it for their, like, we have so many customers who they eat, sleep, and breathe this Blueprint brand. I understand because I do the same thing. Like I want my clean food. I don't want to go eat dirty food. And so then I meet them. I'm like, okay, like I will block out the haters, but it is a thankless job. Like you really have to like stay solid on this because it's annoying when you're like trying to do a world of solid, and they just give you something in return. But anyways, I'm okay now. I've reconciled with the situation. But that's why I'm saying, like with you, Steve, I'd like do it. Like sell your merch, like, and like troll the merch, right? Like like just own it, be you. Like you're a fantastic human. You've done cool stuff. So
Well, thank you, man. And I'm never really going to be too interested in trolling, but there are things that I just think are super funny, and I just like what I arrived at is that I really need to let enthusiasm be my guide.
exactly, yeah, that's right.
And I think that I genuinely did lose my way a little bit because I just ended up with so many people working for me, so many like people that I was like, I'm the livelihood for all these different people, and I've got my dad who's this corporate. He had a big CEO career, and it was like, how much money am I making to make my dad proud?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it became more about that than about the joy in it.
Yeah.
And so just by going back to the joy and the enthusiasm,
Yeah,
that's a big deal. All right, now I was very interested on one. We'll tie it up with the food. It hurt my heart to hear you say that the saddest moment in your day is your last bite of food.
yeah.
I was like, ooh,
Yeah,
because I'm like pretty active in my overeating.
yeah,
It's an addiction.
yeah. It is.
It's an addiction, and I hate it that it's got me in the grips.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm powerless,
Exactly.
and that that makes everything that you said about taking the power away from your mind really resonate.
Yeah.
It's just so tough to get back on the.
Yeah. I said that because people looked at my diet and they say, like, you surely must hate your food. Like they're imagining, like, I'm sure you want to eat pizza and donuts and like you want to go eat a burger and fries. And so like it was really that. And what I was trying to say is that because we have such a methodical diet and every calorie fights for its life, I appreciate food now more than I ever have in my entire life. I eat it and I just absolutely am overjoyed by food. Whereas before, I was just numb. Like you just eat. Like you go to a restaurant, like fine, whatever. And now when I have certain flavors and spices, like, oh my God, it's so crazy. So I was just saying like how alert I am and alive I am to taste and so yeah, that's really it. And so then I appreciate food so much. But also I have this nice balance now where I realize there's limits. Like I need to stop myself and it's not good to keep on going.
Now I'm going to push back on that a little bit. Sure, it's not good to keep on going eating food all day. But what about when you're having sex, right? I'm telling you, it's a really good thing to keep on going in that department. And you want to perform at your best. So thank God for BlueChew tablets. They got the same active ingredient as both Viagra and Cialis, and they only cost a fraction of the price. Plus, if you go to BlueChew.com and use the promo code STEVO, you can get an entire month's supply of BlueChew tablets completely for free. All you pay is $5 for shipping. And yeah, I don't know what Bryan Johnson thinks about this, but I'll tell you what I think is that BlueChew tablets help men have better sex. So I'm all about them. And if you think that they can help you, then one more time, you go to BlueChew.com and use the promo code STEVO to get an entire month's supply completely for free. You only pay $5 for shipping. So with that, let's get back to it. Yeah, I have a thing that I find myself saying all too often is that during a meal, I'll say, I just switched over to recreational eating. Like I'm satiated, I'm full,
Exactly.
and now I'm just eating for just some like perverse pleasure.
Exactly.
And I think that there's like a mental sickness involved where it's almost like when I go for that next low sugar candy bar, like I'm not clear that what I actually want is like just something to beat myself up over it. Like if it's almost like I think I might be addicted to the shame. Like, oh, here I did.
Right.
Like sure I enjoy eating the candy bar, but it's like, oh, like I'd like this self-flatulation.
Yeah.
Like I'm a terrible person. Like I'm so weak, and it's almost like a perverse pleasure in
That's right.
in shame.
Yeah.
Man, it's
Isn't it? Yeah, isn't it? It's such a turbulent emotion, right? Like the whole experience of of wanting it, and like, do you eat it or not? And then you eat it, and it's like, one bite in, like you already feel all the shame.
Yeah.
You already feel all the regret, but then you want to finish it because you have this tension going on.
Yep.
It's so complicated psychologically.
It really is. So in any case, let me ask you about getting blood work done, because every person's so wildly different.
Yeah.
Like, you might, kale might be really good for you, but like actually I could be eating kale, think hey, everybody says kale's a superfood, but it's actually not good for me individually. What can we do to identify the foods that are best for us?
Yeah. So I'd say that if you look at the population level science, like just look at big swaths of people, we have a lot more in common than we do different.
Okay.
So all of us do well with water, right? Almost all of us do well with exercise, minus a few conditions. All of us do well with vegetables. Like you could have your opinion about vegetables, but generally speaking, a lot of these rules really are good for everybody. And then you can jump into the individual differences. But I would say my experience has been the individual differences are really much less than most people think. And so what I've seen is like what happens psychologically to most people is when they want to be healthy, they try to get into the game. And the first thing they do is they like read some books or listen to some podcasts or whatever. And they'll feel overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, everybody says something different. How do I know which thing to do? Because everyone disagrees. And then they get on these tracks where like everything has to be so individualized. They're like, Now they're running from all kinds of foods. They don't dare eat this or that. And so then they feel
Right.
isolated. And then they're like, fuck it. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to eat everything. And so they give up. And so
Right.
that's what we tried to do is we tried to basically say, it's okay. Like we're going to look at all the scientific evidence. We're not going to listen to anyone's opinion. We're going to say, just what does the scientific evidence say? We're going to do the evidence, and then we're going to measure and just do that again and again. And it's very safe, right? Because you just start with the stuff that works for a very large number of people, and then you measure your body and say, is it working for me or not? And so then you have a very clear plan. And so we've tried to basically eliminate this confusion that creates paralysis that people feel in a very steady, methodical, data measured way. And so with you, like we'd say, if I was working with you, we just set out this little plate with foods and say like, here are the foods you're going to eat. Have this protocol, like sleep this way, exercise, and do this, eat these meals. And then we'll do a baseline test. Like, how is your body doing? Do this for a month or two, do another test. How are you doing? And then we make adjustments here and there. But the adjustments for you would probably be pretty small. Like maybe there's something to do with your cholesterol, like maybe a statin. Maybe there's something to do with like maybe your triglycerides are high, you try to bring it down. Maybe your blood glucose is a little high, like bring it down a little bit, like small adjustments here and there. But I would say generally speaking, you're probably going to find that you're like most people, generally speaking.
Okay. And the general rule of thumb is eat food, whole food in its original form as it, like just stay away from processed stuff and like anything that comes in like cellophane or any kind of a wrapper is probably generally you want to avoid.
So it's actually a bit more nuanced. So we measure all foods, and it's very hard to find clean foods. And so even people who are like, I'm just going to go to my farmer's market and buy blank, that's not even a safe source, right? Because the water they're using to irrigate the food, like they don't control the water source, and water is very dirty, and so there's a lot of variables they don't control in that process. And so I eat a lot of stuff out of packages with Blueprint because we can source the foods ourselves, we can manufacture it ourselves, we can test it, we have quality control. So we're just trying to basically get food into my body that has been tested, and we're kind of open to how it comes. Now, there's a few things, like for example, we never eat canned foods because it has BPA in the sealing of that property.
And what's BPA?
Oh, so it's like it's a chemical you don't want in your body. Yeah, so like for example, like women that had higher levels of BPA produced half the number of eggs than women who with lower levels of BPA. Like it just has very disruptive effects in the body.
Okay.
What are some other rules? Like here's an example. We are building a lentils product, and we are sourcing these lentils, and they came back very high in heavy metals. And we're like, that's weird. Why are there high levels of cadmium, mercury, arsenic, lead in heavy metals? And so we called the supplier. We're like, what's up? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, this is our batch that was fertilized with human sludge. And we're like, so human poop is what they're using for the fertilization. And we're like, okay, do you have another growth path that doesn't have human sludge? So what's happening is humans eat a lot of heavy metals. It cycles through. They use that sludge and then put it back in the food chain through the fertilization process. So it's just producing these recycled heavy metals in the process. Wow. So that's an example. Like even if that was an organic black lentil I bought at Whole Foods. Wow. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's just like there's no definitive clear path of how you buy clean foods. You have to like really get after it.
Okay. Now, I've told this story before. I wanted to tell it very quickly. I went to school in England, and during 8th grade, I went on a field trip to Egypt. They told us don't drink the water. The water is very contaminated. It's going to make you sick. But while we were there, I watched an Egyptian guy dunk his toothbrush in the Nile and brush his teeth, and I thought, wow, if tap water's bad, then what's the Nile? It's got to be crazy. But I thought this guy brushing his teeth in the Nile is challenging his immune system. He's just used to it at this point, so he's got to be stronger. And I arrived at the conclusion that the best thing I could do for my health would be to
brush your teeth out of the Nile?
Well, deliberately drink tap water all over the world, which I went on to do.
Yeah.
We filmed a show called Wild Boys. We filmed it on every continent except Antarctica, where I presume the water's pretty pure. I drank tap water everywhere I went, all over, Asia, Africa, like South America. And I believe that my philosophy was right. You know, I consider that the immune system is a muscle. Like any muscle, it
Yeah.
needs to be challenged to become strong. So, is there any argument? Like, are you just thinking, "Wow, what stupidity that"?
No, I mean, no, you ran an experiment. That's great. So the thing you could have done is just add some measurement, right? It's like measure your immune system as a baseline, and then do your experiment and then measure again. I think it's great. Like you're proposing a hypothesis.
Right.
Great. So like measure it, and we'll get results, and we'll see if it's if it's right or not.
Yeah, I didn't do any measuring except the only time I really got sick was like one night we drank some like pretty crazy old boxed wine,
Yeah.
and I think that was about it. Clearly more than 17
Yeah.
years
I mean,
ago.
like one theme that's been true in your life is you just consistently run experiments. Like right, you're posing the question, what if? Right? And like whatever you're doing, it's a what if. So I mean,
Right.
your life has been a big experiment.
So now I spent so much time in an RV. I'm effectively living in this RV, which we're in right now.
Yeah.
You know, for this entire month, and I've been a little bit conflicted on how to approach my drinking water in here.
Yeah.
Because I hear such terrible things about any water that's in plastic. You know, apparently, like, and this company, Liquid Death, their whole deal is death to plastic.
Yeah.
And you know, the infinitely recyclable aluminum can is a lot better for the environment.
Yeah.
And there's so many health risks in plastic bottled water. Like you've got stuff coming into the plastic that's just and study after study confirms this. And I reached out to the CEO of Liquid Death, and I shared him this. You know, the study concludes total proof that plastic water bottles are deadly, dangerous, risky. And I was like, man, like I imagine people are sending you this like crazy, and that it's good for your business. And he said, oh, dude, like that pops up, time and time again, all the time. Nobody pays attention to it. Everybody knows it. And nobody acts any different. And people just don't give a shit.
Yeah, so a friend of mine just did a pretty comprehensive look at plastics in foods in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So it's plasticlist.org. You can see the results. You can just type in the brand. If I'm not mistaken, I think he showed, because they were measuring for phthalates and bisphenols. So those are the chemicals you use to either make plastic soft or hard. And those are the things you're trying to avoid. And so they looked at 300 foods, like meats, and they also looked at water, and they looked at food delivery. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they showed there's very little difference between plastics in water and plastics in glass. I'm not sure if they looked at aluminum. But yeah, so that was just, I guess, and he's one of the more, I think this is one of the most rigorous studies ever done on plastics. So again, like it always comes back to measurement that we've learned that over the years, most things the internet believes about health are incorrect. Whenever conclusions that are formed by consensus on the internet are generally incorrect. And when you actually apply the science framework, it falls apart. Like I'm not quite sure why crowdsourcing doesn't get shit right. Generally, right? Like, does general consensus arrive at good ideas? And
especially in the information age, the digital age, the internet, you would think that fact checking would be really effective.
It's honestly really surprising. It's like maybe this is an overstatement. I want to say that honestly, like when I hear an opinion on social media, I want to say the truth is probably the exact opposite, most likely.
Right, I don't doubt it. So now, living in an RV, there's a fresh water tank.
Yeah,
and like. Generally, like nobody thinks you should drink water out of the faucet. It comes out of a garden. You fill it up with a garden hose, and then this is like a very new RV, so I imagine that the water tank isn't like but the water tank is gonna develop issues with bacteria in the water tank. So I just bought this. Basically. It's not Brita, it's another brand, but like a 40 cup filtration thing. And I looked up, there's you attach to where the garden hose, the faucet,
Yeah.
a filter which will filter the water before it gets into the hose.
Yeah.
Then, so you've got filtered water, and then once it comes out of here, then filter it again. How does that sound?
Yeah,
like
so
it
you
would
can
work?
actually just put it to the test. There's a test you can do. I forget who I use. We test my water once a month at my house, but it's $199, and you get a full panel. So then you'll see the efficacy of your panel. So yeah, just get a test. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's like I agree with you. Like getting water from the tank here, you need to make sure because that I'm not quite sure what grade quality it is, but it seems like a lot of things can go wrong with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're on the road, but you could definitely solve this. Like when you're at home, you can have like a reverse osmosis water system and all that kind of stuff. But when you're on the road, you're subject to other people's systems.
Right.
So yeah, so I'll give you the test name offline, and yeah, let you run it and get the results.
Okay. Yeah, man. Part of me thinks, dude, like, be that kid who said he's going to drink tap water all over the world.
Yeah, yeah. But like the cool thing is that if like you follow up on this conversation, if you perform the $200 test, then you can share with the world like, hey, I have this RV,
Yeah.
I have this water tank, and I have this system. Here's my results.
Right.
And by you sharing that, right, like thousands of other people who are also living in RVs or traveling the world in RVs, they've just got a huge level up, right? Like you've given them one unlock on how they can measure it. So like these very small actions with the one test on one thing helps people understand things so clearly. Like that one guy at the plastics test, right? Glass bottle versus plastic bottle. So testing just has like this underplayed role in society that if we test more stuff, we'd have
Right.
like so much more of a sane world.
How do you approach drinking water, like when you're in a restaurant or just like out and about on the road, like in the hotel?
Yeah, so we try to buy water that good brands we trust, and yeah, because a lot of companies out there do test water, and there's some water companies that have good quality, some companies that have bad quality. So we just try to find good brands.
Okay. All right. How did you approach the pandemic? I guess let me first ask, when did you really dive into this anti-aging?
Yeah, it was during the pandemic. Yeah.
During the
So I was
pandemic, okay.
building my company, Kernel. We built the world's first mass market brain interface. So you put this little bike helmet on your head, and it measures your brain, which no one had ever built before. It's really, really good quality. And so I was building that company and doing my new like don't die experimentation.
Okay. Did like the whole response to the pandemic was just so political. It felt that people were anti-vax and this and that, and it just really felt like their just their politics were kind of making decisions. I got to presume that they again with the testing, but given how much attention you pay to health and air quality and this and
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like like in retrospect, like was everybody just wasting their time with the COVID masks, the mask mandate? Was that just stupid?
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
You know what would be really stupid is if you were going to try to run an e-commerce business without the help of Shopify. I'm telling you, when it's time to sell, it's time for Shopify. And if you want to try Shopify because it's the gold standard in e-commerce and the easiest way to build a website, which serves as the gold standard of websites, then the good news is you can try it for only $1 per month. This $1 per month trial period is yours if you go to shopify.com/Stevo, making sure that's all in lowercase letters. Shopify.com/Stevo for your $1 a month trial period. And again, it's the way to take your e-commerce to the next level, whatever level it's at. And let's ride this baby home.
I have not seen the follow-up studies on mask efficacy. It was obviously a big debate, and I think people did conclude studies thereafter. I have not seen the evidence, so I don't know on that one. I will say that like the big thing that happened is that was the kill shot for government trustworthiness, right? Like they squandered it. They messed it up so badly, and they didn't just share data. They tried to use the data to persuade people what to do. Now their role is to share data. It's not to try to persuade you how to understand it, but they were into this campaign mode where they were trying to get the world to behave in a certain way, which is just not the way you do science. And
especially when it's at the cost of the entire economy, like people's livelihoods. Like, I mean, that was like, it calls to mind, like, you know, asking AI, like, you know, the car is driving and like, someone's got to die. Like, how do you know? They do that. Like, I heard about this. Like, they'll ask AI, like, you know, you got to swerve, you know, one way or the other. You're gonna kill a grandmother.
The trolley problem. Yeah.
And I mean, that is just exactly the same thing with the pandemic. It's like, what's worse, like destroying people's livelihoods and, you know, the economy, or like saving lives? Like, there was just no good approach to it. Like.
So I think what happened is because they lost their credibility, they just blew it. I think that whether it comes back is TBD in time, but right now all the credibility has shifted to people like myself. You know, like we're working on a project right now called Don't Die Certified, where we're going to try to test 80% of the foods. 20% of the foods in the U.S. that make up 80% of the U.S. diet. So like when you guys are driving around and you go to the store, you're like, what should I buy? Should I buy a Quest bar? You know, should I buy like blank, 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 like whatever you're eating? We want you to be able to go to the website, type in the name of the product and say, what are the results for heavy metals, glyphosate, you know, like, et cetera. And we want to put that on a new nutritional label where it says fats, calories, carbs, fats, et cetera, and here are the toxins. And so just like it's there for you to see. And that's like a government level initiative. Like the government should be doing that for us. Like we should have like companies should be doing that for us.
How about the government should, isn't the majority of food that we buy in America like straight illegal in Europe?
There's a lot of chemicals that Europe has banned that the U.S. allows. And that's very true. That we're a much more liberal marketplace, and so like, to me, I guess like like the U.S. does have some legislation. There was a law passed in I think in the late 70s that said that chemicals are safe by default until proven guilty.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which was a bad one. And then they updated it recently in the past decade or so to say that actually you need to reverse that and say chemicals need to be tested prior to coming on market. But we've just had like. I forget what the number is. It's something like 400,000 chemicals have come on market in the past like 60 years, something like that. It's a big number, and very, very few have been tested, and which makes sense because testing these chemicals is really hard. You have to do rigorous science. The studies are very hard. It's very hard to isolate. You don't know what you're really looking for. So I understand why the tension. But yeah, we're going to basically just try to chip away at this problem to say that anything you buy, from your cup of coffee to a snack at the store, you can say what level. Because right now, I know from being in the food business, almost nobody tests. Almost nobody. Like they source, they go to market, and people just don't know what they're eating. So that's an example. I think where they blew COVID, I think what they did is they created this huge opening for people like myself to jump in and say like, all right, if you guys are not going to be like on record as being credible, I'm going to step in and do it. So we're going to try to basically do like a society level job to map the U.S. food OM. Like we sequenced the genome in early 2000, we're going to map the U.S. food OM and look for toxins and just see how we have like a state of play, like where are we at?
I've heard about different apps where like virtually any food packaging with a barcode, you open up the app, you scan the barcode, and it will give that food a grade.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a recommendation for the right app? They're like a good app to use for that?
Yeah, so they're looking at ingredients on labels. So they may say like high fructose corn syrup is a bad ingredient. don't eat that. We're going to give it a low grade. But what they're not looking at is they're not testing the foods. So the invisible things which you can't see on the label are heavy metals, like agrochemicals.
Contaminants.
Exactly. That's what's invisible to everybody.
What's at stake with these invisible contaminants? I imagine cancer.
Exactly. It leads to all things awful. Yeah. I mean,
all things awful.
Yeah. Like you just don't want to be like having a cup of mercury in the morning, right? Or a cup of lead, or a couple of.
But you know what? I can just imagine like kind of crawling into the head of the person listening right now, and just I can just see them thinking, "Oh, well, God, everything's gonna kill me. Arms up in the air, I give up."
Yeah. Okay, so person listening, help is on the way. Like I understand your feeling, and I have been through those same emotions. So first, it's just like an honest assessment. Like, we're in a shitty spot. Okay, let's all like just reconcile. Also, we are going to help you with data. So let's just look at it. And so I think once we start testing, like we got test results back. We started testing a bunch of not just food. We tested last week. We got results back for a diaper, for tampons, and for dog food, and all came back with like,
"Oh my God, Moon Pie's outside."
He just likes that she gets to run around. And
so like we got to get Moon Pie food, right, that doesn't have toxins.
Right. Okay. Kibble is. I feed her this great refrigerated, like actual food.
Yeah.
Not like I put kibble on top of it too.
Let's test it. So let's give me the brand that she uses.
Okay.
Let's test it. And let's test a few other brands, and let's see which ones are best.
Nice.
Okay.
That's exciting.
Very exciting. I keep seeing on my social media that a new drug which will extend the lives of dogs should hit the market next year.
Is that rapamycin, or is that a different study?
I don't know.
Yeah. A friend of mine, I think, is building that company. I want to look it up. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I heard the news. I don't know what drug they're using.
So you measure your sleep with the Whoop band?
Yeah, I do. I also give me 1 second. There was recently an FDA approval for a drug that improved dog lifespans. Can you remind me what drug it was?
Is that Siri you're asking, or an actual person?
GPT.
Oh, ChatGPT.
Okay.
ChatGPT, man.
A recent development in veterinary medicine involves a drug called LOY-002. This medication aims to extend the healthy lifespan of senior dogs by targeting age-related metabolic issues. Loyal, the company behind LOY-002, is working towards full approval by late 2025. This could potentially offer a new way to improve the quality of life for aging dogs.
What was the evidence on the amount of time it increased lifespan for aging dogs?
Loyal-002 is an experimental drug developed by Loyal. LOY-002 is still in the clinical trial phase, so specific evidence on the exact amount of lifespan extension for aging dogs isn't fully available yet. However, the FDA has accepted Loyal's Reasonable Expectation of Effectiveness RXE application, which indicates promising initial results. Loyal is currently conducting the STAY clinical study with around 1,000 senior dogs to gather more comprehensive data on the drug's efficacy. The study is expected to run for 4 years, and more detailed findings should be available as the research progresses.
Cool.
All right. So promising.
Yeah, I mean,
if I could just keep my dog.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about Whoop. I love Whoop. I've been wearing
cool.
Whoop. I've been wearing Whoop for over 5 years.
Yeah. So I like the form factor. I like it that it's on the wrist. Aura is also great. Apple Watch is great. Garmin's great. Like, if you're looking for a wearable, they all work. So just choose the one that works for you, price point.
Whoop is the most sophisticated fitness tracking device known to man.
Okay.
Right? I mean, are you pushing back on that?
I think if you look at they're a great company.
Okay,
I guess.
let's look at the fact that you're wearing one.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
we've done the testing.
Yeah. So I used to wear an Aura, and then it annoyed me because I don't like things on my fingers. Like when I
Okay.
type or when I work out.
Oh, is that a ring?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess I'm very careful to I don't ever speak about any product because I get paid. I only speak about things based upon evidence because I want my trust is my number one asset. And so I always want to speak in a very tempered fashion.
Okay, good.
So wearables, like if you look at a competitive chart, they all have their own metrics, like they're good at sleep or exercise or HRV or whatever. But generally speaking, they all do a pretty good job. So like you can get into the details and get much more granular in the analysis, like this one's better than that one in this regard. But yeah, so I'm just like offering a very general assessment. I do wear Whoop. I like the company a lot. I've worn them for 5 years. Others are also fine.
Okay, good. Can you explain HRV and why it's important?
Yeah, so that's your nervous system. So you
It's
can think.
heart rate variability.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The
So
nervous system.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like when you're feeling fight or flight, when
Right.
like really you're ramped up, that's your sympathetic nervous system and like let's go. But you only want to be in that zone for a small amount of time. Then you want to dip back into your parasympathetic, which is more calm state. And so what your HRV is measuring is the ratio, like where you're at on the dial. Like, are you more sympathetic as a person? Like, are you more fight or flight, or are you more chill? And so a higher HRV just means you're basically doing a good job, like leveling your nervous system. And so, yeah, it's a good marker for how you're doing with stress, how you're doing with calming your nervous system. So it's a generally good marker. And as like most markers, you start with a very high HRV in life, and then it just goes down with age until it gets to zero.
You know, mine is so reflective of how I'm doing with my diet.
Exactly.
Like, if I'm really on point, like I'll be 150.
Yeah.
If I start slipping up, overeating, like it falls. Like my highest that I'll see right now is like 118.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, just on the verge of being 50, that is a fantastic HRV. Like that's at age 20.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I'm generally a pretty healthy guy. But you know that's on a green day. I'm saying that's the highest it'll go.
Yeah,
Lowest it'll go is about 70.
yeah, that's really good. Yeah, see, but once you see all the data coming in, when you see how the body responds to like a bad meal or a bad week or to a bad night, right? It's really informative.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of people will get these wearables and they'll drink, then they'll see it just demolishes their sleep and they'll be like, oh, what? You know, like,
Right.
and so like one night of data shows them, even though they've felt it 1,000 times before,
Right.
just seeing the data changes their perspective. So like you can imagine when we see data on my body, we see thousands of data points. It really motivates you. Like what? So when people are like, "Oh, Bryan, you got to be like craving a donut or a pizza," it's like, no, because I know if I do that, I know the wreckage is going to happen in my body. And like I can't stand that thought. That just like the worst. So changes your perspective.
Man, there she is. There's my little moon pie.
I'm so curious who picked her up.
Yeah.
Who is this? Who is this person?
She was hanging out with her two big dogs.
Thank you so much.
She's so sweet.
Hilarious fucking saga. We went to the like a vet and they're like, "This is Steve-O's dog." I was like, "Really?"
How did the vet know it was my dog?
Because the microchip to a place in Kentucky, it was a
Yeah.
whole fucking thing. We
Wow.
were just trying to be like, maybe this is chipped or something.
You guys are amazing.
And we just lived right there, and she was right here.
Come here.
What it was.
Hey, thank you so much. Oh, I love you. I'm just a terrible dad, aren't I?
What a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Like she thinks she just went on a field trip. Like she doesn't know she was forgotten. She's
Yeah.
like, "Thanks,
Field
Dad.
trip.
That was fun."
I mean, I generally, I'll let her out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't normally lock her out, but I let her out and she always comes back. So the only variable is if somebody takes her.
You know, I oftentimes wonder if if like we humans got too much consciousness, and if we'd be better if we stopped at the conscious level of dogs. You know, like they're good.
Yeah.
You know, like life is just okay, and like, hey, buddy, how are you? Nice, thanks for welcoming me. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, how sweet.
Now, and I wonder, like, the dog's licking you. Are you thinking, like, bacteria in the dog's mouth, it's got to keep it off me?
I'm thinking this is going to be an experiment. What what does dog bacteria do?
Perspective. I like it.
Right.
Oh,
Yes, yeah, she's a little bit pooped out. That's what I want. She got some exercise. Now, in the, in the documentary, you were describing it, being a divorced guy. You know, you finding potential partners on dating apps.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. And you've got like kind of a protocol for like, if you meet a potential partner,
Yeah.
you're going to say, hey, like, I'm going to need to flag this, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to just kind of get out in front of this. Like,
Yeah.
You need to know that I'm a nightmare. Like, I mean, of course, that's.
I'm a sweet dream, but you're gonna think I'm a nightmare before you realize I'm a sweet dream.
Right. Okay. How is the dating life going? Are you dating anyone now?
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, you're not.
Yeah.
Now, like potential partners, like what kind of testing goes on?
Yeah.
Talk about testing, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So it is. It's true that I really am. I really believe in this "don't die" movement. Like I legitimately believe it's going to change the course of intelligent existence on this planet, and therefore I'm really into the work. And so when I meet people, I try to let them know immediately, like whatever model you have in your mind about what a relationship is, you need to understand that I'm really after this objective, and that is my number one partner.
Right.
And so you're going to be in place number two. Now, sometimes women will say, great. Like, honestly, I hate when I'm in the number one spot. It's too much attention. It's too much requirements. Like, I want to do my thing too. So honestly, great. So just like that as a baseline, because most people start with the assumption that when you get together, you're each other's number ones.
Yeah.
And so you just break that one down. Then number two, like you start going on the list. So you're just trying to basically you're trying to address what society says should be the default, and you're saying what will be the default. And then you save yourself a year of time of going through all that dating process. And oftentimes women will get to the end of like I've never had more women pursue me in my entire life than, and maybe it's just because it's fame or whatever the case may be, but women come at me now with this very specific thing like, I love this lifestyle. I love this purpose. I love this routine. It's like it fits perfectly with me. So in many ways, it's just like it eliminates all the uncertainties, like what kind of guy am I? What am I going to do? And they are into the testing. So actually, one of the funny things, when I started doing the blood stuff, like there's a big blood world out there.
Help me understand what that means.
I mean, like people that are really into blood.
Blood work.
that can go many different ways.
Exactly. I mean, like.
You're talking about like what Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton, or MGK and
it can go many different ways.
Yeah. So exactly. So like, people do wild sex blood things.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Are you aware of this?
Yeah.
Oh wow. That was a knowing look.
Somebody I know very well is into that, and they're very public about that.
Yes.
And it's, like period blood,
Exactly.
or a face mask, or
Exactly. And they'll like
making art with blood.
exactly all over the room and stuff like that. So this is like, so a lot of people, they'll approach this conversation and they'll think I'm at some disadvantage, right? Okay, like maybe the guy's a little autistic, maybe he's like, whatever. They mark all these deficits, but what they don't realize is this really speaks hardcore to a lot of people with different life, like different proclivities, different interests. So when I started doing the blood thing, like my DMs were just popping, like, and they're like, Like this is my thing.
Because the plasma transfusion.
Exactly. Like, so it tripped off this whole thing. So I guess like it's just been fun. I've been introduced to these new worlds which I didn't know existed. I wasn't aware of this going on. But so yeah, it's been fun. Like there's I'm really having a great time. I think this is like a really fun conversation to have. It pokes holes in all these social norms on what people think should or should not be available. But like it's great.
Okay. Now I'm going to take it your word. You're having a lot of fun dating.
You know, I will say, I'm also extremely careful.
I can imagine.
Like, you know, I mean, I've had experiences in life where people did not have the right interests, the right intentions, right? They had actually ulterior motives.
Well, I mean, that factored into the documentary
Yeah,
as
you
well.
did. You did mention that in the documentary as
yeah.
well.
So
I mean, that, and it's just crazy how people can take the same piece of information and arrive at such wildly different conclusions.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I have to. It's like a really delicate balance. Like I'm sure you've experienced the same thing.
Sure.
It's just like you kind of have to. Everyone you meet, you kind of have to figure out like, what is it? Like, what is it that you're after, and on what time scale, and because everyone's got like a certain want, and so or sometimes just genuine friendship, which is cool. Right. But like you definitely have to be mindful.
Right. Okay. Now, you've got your individual health protocol very dialed in. On a bigger scale, like kind of more of a collective societal health, like I think we can agree that that we're in trouble, not just as a nation in America, but you know, on a global scale. The debt is unsustainable. The environment's screwed. I mean, we live in a time of what's called mega threats, and I just wonder, like, with all of these, you know, precautions, all these protocols, all these approaches to your individual health, how do you do you have the same kind of I guess preemptive, you know, planning for like societal problems? Like, so like I guess what I'm asking is, do you have like a nuclear bunker? Like, do you have like you know, passports for all kinds of different countries,
like Jason Bourne style?
I mean, I'll never forget. I was you know, on a flight to England. I was sitting next to a guy who was on the United States sailing team. He was off to he was going to connect in London and go to Scandinavia somewhere and compete with sailboats. And he was reading this book. Right there on the cover, the title said, "This book could save your life." It's written by an author, Neil Strauss.
I know Neil's a friend.
Excellent. Wow. I love him because he wrote what I used to call the Bible, which is the Motley Crue book, The Dirt.
Exactly.
I refer to that as the Bible. So, you know, in order to write this book, This Could Save Your Life, he really dove into the survivalist, you know, and you're the guy, the sailing guy, you know, broke down. He says, yeah, well, you know, he got involved with these militias. He you know, I think maybe became a pilot, got passports for all these countries to go to, and when the shit hits the fan, learned how to ride a motorcycle because when everybody's trying to get out, like a motorcycle can split lanes, you know, this whole thing. And I got to believe that whole survivalist thing just fits right into your program.
Yeah. So I've actually done very little on that. So my mind really, the thing I'm obsessed about more than anything is survival of the human race. That's like, that is what I am absolutely consumed by. And so it's
that's on an individual organism level.
Yeah. So it's not even like my health stuff is, you know, like me trying to be healthy. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm really doing it for the philosophy it represents. So what I'm basically saying is, the thing that every single human on the planet wants, like the thing we have in common, we have one thing in common. Nobody wants to die right now.
Okay.
That is literally the only thing in existence that humans agree upon.
I've always said that, not always, but that the human experience feels like a really cruel prank on us because we only have one instinct, which is to survive.
Yes.
But one guarantee, which is we won't.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, what are we doing here?
So exactly.
Like we're barreling towards this inevitable demise, which we fear more than anything. And, like I kind of see, this would be antithetical to your whole perspective, but I see that, given that you're right, we all want to survive. We all know that we won't.
Yeah.
So I see the human experience as an exercise in trying to reconcile our mortality, to wrap our head around it.
Which is like the history of humanity. And so what I'm saying above all is I'm saying that, so humans want one thing. We don't want to die right now. And then secondly is I'm saying that AI is progressing at a speed that makes it clear that death may no longer be inevitable, that we may be the first generation to not die. And so this is the first time in
Can you
human
help
history.
me understand ways in which AI can...
So think of it like this. So if we say, okay, so lifespan has nearly doubled, in the past century. And it's doubled from things like basic hygiene practices like washing hands. We discovered there are germs and these microscopic objects cause infections. So therefore washing your hands is a good idea. We discovered antibiotics, help control infections. That's really positive.
Vaccines.
Vaccines. Like we discovered that certain drugs and Medicare, like you can like cancer treatments, right? Like we discovered all these things to extend life. That's been wonderful. And so just think of like the people who made those discoveries are just smart people. So think of AI as like billions or trillions more of smart people. And as AI gets smarter and smarter and smarter, now sometimes AI is working in conjunction with the human. Soon AIs will probably be working autonomously, like they'll work without a human. And so you're basically bringing on like orders of magnitude more intelligence, like basically call it 1 billion or 1 trillion new human geniuses to work on the world's hardest problems.
And without requiring sleep or food.
And so when you do that, right, you're inevitably going to make some kind of progress towards figuring out how you slow down the speed of aging. So let's say this year we bring on 1 billion new genius level humans to work on aging. And let's say that cumulative effect is they help us slow down our speed of aging by 10%. Okay, so we age a little slower over the next year, and say next year they discover something that slows down our speed in another 10%. Right? And so we buy a little bit more time. And so you don't have to map that out very long. It's like 10 years passes or 15 years, and we're like, are we on the cusp of like dramatically extending our lives? Like we're going to live hundreds or even thousands of years. And so there's no reasonable person right now can take the position that we are somehow prohibited by the laws of physics from doing this. Biology has already solved immortality in several species. It's a different species than us.
What species?
So there's jellyfish that are immortal, right? So there's like the Greenland shark lives, a couple hundred years. Like there are biological species that live very long lives and some which are immortal. And so it's not like you're trying to break.
Is there anything other than jellyfish which are immortal?
Yeah, the Hydra.
Turtles, I think, do really well.
Yeah,
Some
turtles.
turtles.
Yeah,
Turtles do well.
the Hydra, I think, is immortal.
I don't know what a hydra is.
Yeah, there's several.
Okay.
Yeah, so to conclude that thought, my entire essence of it being is basically I'm trying to communicate in 2025, this is the biggest moment in the history of the human race.
I believe that.
Yeah, and
I believe that. And it could go very bad.
Exactly. So my goal is don't die don't eat toxins today for lunch, to don't die by nuking ourselves, don't die by, letting viruses spin out of control, don't die by having AI do something stupid and killing the human race. Like basically I'm trying to say, don't die across every vector of existence. Don't die. Like the only thing we do as a species right now is we say like we're on the cusp of something extraordinary. We have to lock in. It doesn't make sense anymore to spend our time trying to make money and wealth and power and status. A brand new game is here.
Unrelated question, but do you think AI, I love the way that you describe it as 1 trillion new geniuses.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about the disparity of wealth?
Yeah.
I think that I think that is just so alarming.
Yeah. Well, I say the trends around that are very good. So if you look at how cell phones, mobile phones raised people out of absolute poverty, now they've got a supercomputer in their hands and they have access to financial resources where they don't have to go through banks anymore. Just that their bank is on their phone. They can text and call anyone. And now with AI, you've got a supercomputer, super intelligent agent in your hand. So in many ways, these advancements do more for the poor than anything that's ever been done. Like it does more than a government can do. It is more than a program. Now you have access to all the knowledge, and so it levels the playing field. Everybody has access to the same level of intelligence. It's actually pretty crazy. So I'd say it's actually doing more to lessen inequality than ever before.
Okay. I just recently spoke with Patrick Bet David.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with him, and he was taking the position that during this Trump administration, we will see the world's first trillionaire, and that's going to be a net positive for the world at large, the nation, the economy. I can't I can't see that.
Yeah.
You know, like to me, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer has been a dynamic. I mean, we haven't seen it to the scale it's at now since the Rockefellers, the
Yeah.
Carnegies, you know, and I'm not sure if it's worse or better now, but it's certainly headed towards worse.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tricky one.
I mean, I don't know. Like while we're talking about, you know,
Yeah.
the thriving, and I gotta say it's an unpopular opinion, but I love everything I hear Bernie Sanders say.
Yeah. I think, I don't think you ultimately want a human or a small group of humans with disproportionate decision control in the world.
Right, and at this point, the top 3 richest people in America control more than 50% of the wealth.
Yeah.
That's incredibly
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. And it's yeah, I think you really want systems to be moderators of power, but you also, you know, like sometimes when systems get stuck in internal battles, they collapse upon themselves. And sometimes something new, like when the founding fathers created America, right, to get away from the British. It's a very complicated question. I understand there's an easy way to try to simplify this of rich is bad and equality is, you know, good, but society is a very complicated mess,
Yeah.
and like we're all. I'm trying to map this.
I agree with where you're going.
I'm trying to basically say, like, when death is inevitable, it becomes a fight on who can acquire the most amount of power and wealth. And when you enter into a new phase of don't die, it's a different game as a species. And it's not one of wealth and power. It's a game entirely as a species locking, because the one person can't do that.
I feel like I want to push back on that a little bit.
Okay,
'Cause I
please.
feel like when, you know, the human instinct for, you know, power, property, and prestige, I think, you know, when you take away the limitation which death represents, I just think that you have limitless hunger but now, because already, you know, this saying really resonated with me. That a man who has nothing only has to worry about his next meal.
Yeah.
The man who has everything worries about his last meal.
Yeah.
You know, and do I have enough do I have enough to retire? Do I
Yeah.
have enough, when am I going to run out of money? It's that's why financial insecurity becomes a greater problem for those who have more wealth. The more wealth you have, the more financially insecure you feel. So now if you take that last meal and now you need to have enough resources to forever, you're never going to die. Like then you think that whole financial insecurity of thinking about your last meal. Now, you've got people that have a much longer timeline that they need to support themselves on, and a more hunger for power, property, and prestige.
Yeah. I can attest that's true with me. Like I was poor for the first 34 years of my life, and then I made a couple $100 million from the sale of my company. And wealth is so complicated.
It creates a vacuum.
It
doesn't satisfy anything. The more wealth you have, the more it creates a vacuum. The more you have, the more you need.
Exactly, and
that's just human nature.
Exactly. And you can't really talk about this publicly because it's like it's like a complaining about being wealthy, right? So it's a shit move. Also, just like in all honesty, it is a major complication in life. Like it just makes life so complicated.
I mean, I think that you could ask just about any person who's amassed any substantial wealth, were they happier before they became wealthy? I think almost universally people are going to say that they were happier when they had nothing.
It's a trade-off. It definitely has very serious trade-offs. It's not like you just make money and you're good. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I believe just at a cellular level, when I had absolutely nothing, and I did have absolutely nothing, that I was happier. And it's just it's distilled down to that one saying, like, the man who has nothing only has to worry about his next meal.
Yeah.
Life is so simple under those circumstances.
And I would also say I resonate with that because, like, being healthy, the fact that now my life is based upon trying to have the best biomarkers in the world, that has brought me genuine happiness. Like when my body is like in a really good spot, when I'm sleeping well and when I just feel great, when I'm not eating toxins, I legit feel happy. And so I resonate with that.
The amount of sleep people need varies so much. Is it right that the older you get, the less sleep you need?
No, you need more.
You need more.
And it's harder to get sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing my Whoop band has really helped me with is that, like I believed that I needed to sleep. I take it very seriously. Like I used to have a rule that I'd never want to go to sleep without having at least 8 hours before I gotta get up.
Yeah.
And like it is a real problem. It is a problem for my next day if I'm going to have less than 8 hours for sleep.
That's right.
But I come to realize with my Whoop, it's actually more like 9. It's more like 9, and if I really want to be optimal, I need to be in bed for like 10 hours because I need 8 hours of actual sleep.
Yeah.
So time in bed is very different from actual sleep.
Exactly.
I need a minimum of 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Which means that I need to devote 9 hours at minimum to being in bed.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I agree with you. My average over the past year is 8 hours and 34 minutes of sleep. And so, it's my wake time at night is on average less than 30 minutes. So me too, I'm getting 8 hours a night. And so you're really trying to spend the least amount of time in bed as possible, which means like fewest times getting up, fewest amount of time waking up, being up. So yeah, I agree with you. But I feel my very best with 8.
Yeah, I have to have it.
The data shows the optimal number is around 7. So if you look at all the population scale data, and then if you then add in top of that extra sleep needed for a level of activity or stuff like that, you can get to 8. But there's actually, it's a kind of like a V-shaped curve where all-cause mortality is very high with low levels of sleep, and you get to the lowest number of all-cause mortality. Like you increase lifespan expectancy with 7, then you start coming back up. So getting too much sleep, getting too much sleep is actually bad for you. So it's in a very narrow band of like 7 to 8.
So what are you doing sleeping 8.5 hours, man? That sounds very reckless.
Well, so once you account for my wake time, so I'm actually like right there in the optimal curve because I'm up on average just below 30. Yeah. So some people do have a gene though. They can sleep for 4 hours a night, but that's so rare though. So you can actually, if someone's like, oh, I sleep 5 hours a night and I'm fine, you can measure it. So you can actually look at blood biomarkers and see if they're telling the truth. If they're not, the body markers will tell you like they're inflamed and unhappy.
So you said if somebody gets too much sleep, it's bad for them. Is
Yeah.
that bad for their physical health, mental health, or both?
I'm not sure. Actually, it's a great question. I don't know.
You don't know about the mental piece because
Yeah.
that's harder to quantify, but physical health,
Yeah.
absolutely, there's metrics for that.
Yeah, exactly. So I know the deficiencies of too little sleep. Like I know which proteins
Gotcha.
will be bad. But your question's great. I've never actually heard it before. What are the markers that you're sleeping too much?
Mm-hmm.
Good question. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours
Yeah.
and days, man.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
In your documentary, you were taking those antibiotics, correct?
Oh, the rapamycin?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you had 13
Yes, that's right.
in your hand. How do you feel? How does your body feel? And how did you feel when you first started taking them?
Yeah, so I just stopped taking rapamycin because
Okay.
of the side effects. Yeah, so rapamycin was probably considered to be the most exciting drug in anti-aging. It had shown great promise in mice models, and it was just now going to humans for studies. And but it also comes along with a bunch of side effects. Like you have small tissue infections, like cankers in your mouth. It reduces your NK cells, your immune system. NK cells are your cancer-killing cells, so it suppresses them. And then it also causes disruptions in blood glucose and also lipids, like your cholesterol. And so we were trading off those side effects for the potential benefits of his offering for longevity. But then after doing it for 5 years, and we were being very meticulous, measuring all of my blood work doing this, we concluded the side effect profile was too high for the benefits we thought we were getting, so we stopped. And then a paper came out in October, a month after we stopped, and showed that using 16 biological aging clocks, that rapamycin was increasing the speed of aging. So on this marker, it wasn't just, it had some effect where it is increasing speed of aging. So it's kind of like the irony of like the world's best anti-aging drug on this marker was accelerating the speed of aging.
Is that a lawsuit?
Yeah, so basically went against of what your goal was.
Yeah, but it's like it's also, you have to keep in mind that's just one data point. So like when I shared, like we do, I shared this publicly. I'm like, hey, you guys, I've been doing this. Here's the new data. And then like the internet went wild. They're like, this is so funny. This is so good. The anti-aging guy accidentally took a anti-aging drug. It was accidentally accelerating his aging. So people were so excited. But you have to realize this is part of the scientific process. Like you do things, you try things, some things work.
Experience.
And also it's just one data point. It may actually have worked in other ways we didn't measure.
That's why your ear is so damn old.
Yeah. So
Interesting. Okay.
How frequently are you uploading YouTube videos? I saw your plaque. Like, where's your subscriber count at this point?
I think we're at 1.5 million.
Nice. That's very fast growth.
Yeah, thanks. We've been at it for like a year and a half.
I guess the Netflix really, the documentary really spiked the.
The Netflix effect is real. It is so deep and broad. I'm amazed. Every walk of life. Like this morning, I'm here in Austin for a week. I went to the gym. And they're like, hey.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's like even people outside of world of health and wellness.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fascinating documentary, man.
It really is. Yeah. I think everybody should see it.
Thanks.
The history with the Mormon Church, it's pretty heartbreaking. You know, the way that effectively destroyed the family dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, you were a very strict Mormon. You left the church. I couldn't help but wonder, have you ever gone to see the play, The Book of Mormon?
I have. It's good. It's really good.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And was that like I've left the church, like I'm gonna go see this play.
Yeah, I think the Mormon Church has really done a great job from a PR perspective. I think they realized that putting up a fuss would just make it worse. So I think that they kind of roll with it. They're like, yeah, I'll go see it and it's fun. So
wow.
Yeah, so I think kudos to them that was a really good PR play. It's like we know this, like
Sure.
always say yes and to critics. Never no but, right? No but never works. Always yes and. So I think they've played their cards right.
That's incredible. So you were still in the church when you saw that play?
No, it was after. But I wanted to see, it was fun to see an outsider's take because
Sure.
when you're inside, you live within the lunacy of the system.
Right.
And it's only when an outsider can poke fun and you're like, oh, I was
Yep.
that. I did
Right.
that. And so you see yourself in
Different
this new light.
sides.
So it's almost like I was watching myself through like self-discovery of like who I was before, and I was oblivious to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not like on any level trying to attack. I personally really enjoyed that play.
Yeah.
And the perspective of somebody who's left the church. Like I wanted to ask about that. Having left the Mormon church, like how would you describe? And this is where I want to end on this. Like, what does faith mean to you as a guy who's left the church?
Yeah. So I think that to me, that's like, it's the coolest question in existence where like we find ourselves in this really weird situation. Like we are conscious, we're on Earth, floating in space. Like what's happening? Like
Right.
What is even
what is even happening? And it's like such a good question. Then like we forget that that's the situation. And then we jump to all these conclusions and we get lost in all these games we're playing, like whether it's a content creator or whether it's like building a business,
Right.
we're playing for status, power, prestige. But like if you zoom out and you see that we're in this larger galaxy, this is nuts. And so what I learned from that experience is when I came out of the womb, I was born into this really small community, this religious community. And they said, this is reality. We're going to tell you how to understand reality. And so Mormonism has a story for like what happened before this life, what happens in this life, what happens in the afterlife. They give you all the rules, like eat this, don't eat that, think this, don't think that. These people are your friends. These people are the enemies. You know, like they give you the whole playbook for reality. And then when you, like I finally came to understand they had given me a playbook for reality, but maybe that wasn't reality. Like maybe it was like some constructed reality. And so I got to ask this question brand new. What is really going on? And I think that's really the question. And so my favorite quote is by a World War II reporter, Edward Murrow. And he said, those who are not confused by the situation don't understand what's really going on. So normally we think that understanding is intelligence. And he's saying that confusion is intelligence. That if you were, that intelligence never actually graduates past confusion. That we're like, it's just, this
Sure.
is, we can't understand what is happening.
Here's as a sober guy, the 12 steps.
Yeah.
That they refer to God as we understand God.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing a guy who, when I was really new, he said, I think alcoholics must be the most arrogant people on earth because they actually believe that they understand God. You know, that's just a little bit of a play on it. Like God, my understanding of God. And, that I was like, yeah, that's 100% right. Like we don't understand. Like to claim to understand is arrogant.
Yeah. So I when I went through that whole process and I came back and I was like, how do I understand existence? I came up with a single answer. The only thing I know is that I don't want to die right now.
Okay.
And like literally outside of that observation, I can't say that I know anything. And that's especially true as we're walking into a new era of being human with AI. And so my entire thesis on existence is that as a species, like as we're sitting on Earth in this part of the galaxy, giving birth to superintelligence, literally the only thing we know as a species, the only thing is we don't want to die right now. And it's like a very humble observation about reality that it's like, it's so precious that we're here. Did this flip off?
I think that one did.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
We still got you right here.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's like the essence of my world is like, it's been dramatically simplified into a single concept.
Right. I mean, you definitely have a real knack for staying on topic.
Does it like get out of control
I
otherwise?
mean, no, I mean, and I love it. I love it. I think that's really the best or the most honest answer for a question about spirituality is that I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I think you could go to the dictionary definition of the word faith, and I think it would say belief in something that cannot be proven.
Yeah.
I think some people, if they were to think, I don't know what's happening and I don't know what's out there, that could be scary for them. And some
Yeah.
other people, it could be exciting and, they want to find more avenues and explore more things. And,
Yeah.
you can make your own assumptions, but I mean, you could also have like your higher power can be, I was just telling him, like a tree or anything you want it to be.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we both have things we got to do today.
Yeah.
This is considerably longer than I normally run a podcast, which is always evidence of it being an experience that I enjoyed.
Well, I had fun hanging out with you.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Yeah, I've you probably hear this all the time. I've been watching you since it's like I can remember being conscious. Like I've been watching you in the public eye. So it's been really cool to see you. You're such an unusual character.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah, and I just really respect that you've carved out a path that is different. And so respect.
Hey, likewise, man. And there you have it, folks. My buddy, Bryan Johnson. And happy to report that Moon Pie, she's perfectly safe and sound. Am I a bad dad for letting her roam around? Maybe, but her quality of life matters to me. I want her to have some freedom. And, thanks again to the people who kidnapped her. But yeah, in any case, Bryan Johnson, loved him, and I love you for sticking around to the end. It's crazy, and it was really crazy what I did. What was it now? 3 days ago. It's been 3 days. I did one of the biggest stunts, maybe the biggest stunt. Like 3 days ago. It was epic. Anyway, I love you. Thank you for sticking around. And it's time for bed. Yeah, dude.